Well, it's a hell of a day here in the SCC playoffs, day number 2 of 3 that's coming forward. As you can see, we have made the long transition, quickest flight of your life from Europe to North America. Never going to be any quicker than what we can do here. The transition like that, as we are going to be taking on a correction from what Mifflin said. Winter Dogs, we also didn't get to see yesterday. They play later. Sturdy Artisans was the team that forfeit, and as such are the team that are down here, which has led us, Mifflin, also Gormizer here, by the way, in case you forgot my name. Either way, this has led us to a very interesting position, because this, behind me, is your number 1 seed coming out of the SCC this phase. The team over there behind Mifflin is your number 2 seed coming out of the SCC this phase, which means that somebody from the top 2 is getting eliminated this game. Sturdy Artisans Tiburones, as you can see, now around 2:30, so give us a few minutes. We'll have to get through picks and bans, all that fun stuff. And then a little later on, the Winter Dogs taking on the Herculean Hoofs, your 3rd seed and your 4th seed, surprisingly still in the upper bracket.
Yeah, this is going to be an absolute stacker. But I gotta hone in just a little bit here, Gore. Let's talk about these team compositions. Who is the Sturdy Artisans? Essentially, the Elysium of North America. We got Relentless One, Sino, Pagan, Stewart, and Ionic, and they are nigh undefeated. They have not lost a single set except for the one that they forfeited here in Season 8. That's wild. That is absolutely wild.
That is kind of insane to think about it. Looking at it, I believe they're 16-3. Like they've lost some games, so don't worry. They can trip a little bit. It's just not often. 3-16, they have a less than 20% chance to lose a game technically off of that. That is not good odds for you if you're coming into it. I want to say that one of the teams that has pushed them the hardest, I'm going to double check this while I talk about it, is going to end up being the Sharks here, the Tiburones, as they've been able to come through. And it has gone 3 games, at least the one that I immediately spot throughout this one, the last time they played. And that's where things get really interesting between these two, because the way these games are going to shake out is maybe the most important they've actually played up to this point so far. You lose this, and you are out. You did so well during that phase, and unfortunately, whether it be to sub issues or a crazy turnaround from the Herculean Hooves, something didn't go right for you yesterday, and now you're in an unfortunate position where you're going to go home if you lose this one.
Fortunately, though, they have plenty of talent behind them, right? You were talking earlier about how you had Angry slated as one of your next to move up into the SPL out of the mid-roll. Well, I've got Pagan in my book. This guy has been absolutely tearing it up over here in North America. I mean, I can't sing the praises of Sino that haven't already been seen on the world stage, world's MVP a while back, by the way, playing out of the jungle, and he's a little bit unorthodox score. He likes to play some weird stuff. E-set jungle, yeah, that's just Sino stuff. I mean, Ymir jungle, maybe a little bit less weird, but Sino's willing to do it. Or, if we're in for a real treat and get some chills in the studio, we might be able to get to see his Naja. He's one of the best to have ever done it.
I felt that. It got a little cold in here when you said that. Man, I don't know. But this is where things get, again, very interesting. Looking at them 3-3. They've each beat each other 2-1. And so it's literally about as even as you could get coming into this one, making things a lot more interesting. But it's that other side, Mifflin, that makes things, I think, just as spicy, because it is a team that has been able to keep up to it. I mean, you just mentioned Sturdy Artisans. It's nothing but phenomenal names. I'm just going to say one to try and balance some of the skills. I'm going to drop Gaijay out there, someone who comes through. We've seen him in the Pro League a little bit last year, looked incredible when he made that stint, and you've surrounded him by incredible, I think, for this weekend as well. Yesterday didn't quite go the way they wanted it to, though.
No, it did not. They stumble a little bit, but still flashes of greatness in it, and we've seen greatness throughout the season so far from these guys. I think you highlight the right player. Gaijay is the standout for me on this team, has been very consistent, even though he has gone towards what now in Season 8 are unorthodox picks. Back in Season 7 were some of the best picks. He's very likely to pick things like the Rom or the Hou-Yi or something along those lines inside of his lane, but he is also flanked by greatness. Heed out of the Soul lane has been having a very consistent year. Cope inside of the jungle has got a very diverse god pool. He's incredibly hard to ban out. Maybe not as diverse as what Sino's bringing on the other side, but certainly still has a very deep pool in of his own right. Spreen and Blugan going to round out the rest of this team, and both players that can really be difference makers inside the lobby.
I mean, look, this has all of the formula, all of the makings. You pour the players in, add a dash of meta, and you film it up, I guess put it all together in Baba's cauldron? I don't know. Just somewhere where you can cook it. Either way, you have the recipe for what should be a really good set, especially if Gaijay is going to give us plays like that one. So this is where the spice will be. If I had to put my money on the, I'm just going to say best set of the day, I would put it on this one. Now, that being said, every time I've ever said that, it's been 2-0.
Yeah,
so let's hope that I don't curse it, and let's hope I counter curse it with the curse of count. You know what it is.
You nailed it.
By mentioning it, we're going into picks and bans for game number 1 here as we get into it. Sturdy Artisans versus Tiburones de Tijuana as they come through. I just wish I had better pronunciation. That was like good, but it could be better.
Yeah, I just say the Sharks. So
you know what?
I'm not even trying.
I think Taco is going to be on this cast. Maybe she can show us how to do it. That's going to actually be very phenomenal. I'm jealous of the pronunciation she has. Look, I learned German, and let me tell you how little that comes in handy in your day-to-day life.
I'd say 0.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm trying to look
like
at
Heineken,
it. Normally,
maybe?
like when if I'm like ordering very specific kinds of alcohol, then yes, it can. But even then, that's such a niche area to come through. Either way, some bands being picked up. Yamoja Yanis on the top right of the screen. That looks like a King Arthur Cucullin Tiamat now filling out the top 3 over there for the Sturdy Artisans. So far, pretty standard on both sides.
Very standard bands, but some things notably have been let through. The Soul is still out there, Fafnir is still out there, Chiron's still available as well. So there are still plenty of power picks to be taken here by the Artisans, but they're such an unorthodox team, it feels like I might be going the wrong way with it, and I certainly was. Who could have predicted Camazotz in the first pick slot? It is a very versatile pick, could take it into the Soul lane. We know that Relentless One is very capable of playing this god. Sino has had a large stint on this god inside the SPL as well. But it's not really top pick potential if you're going by any other team in the league.
And what is top pick potential in your mind? Oh, hey, maybe the Chiron comes through on the other side? Seems pretty good. I mean, he has been dominating over there in the duo lane. Very, very successful. Camazotz admittedly has flexibility, similar to, I want to roll it back a week ago. It feels like so much longer than that, but just a week ago during the SBL playoffs, Fenrir for the finals had this kind of same precedence where it's like, man, Fine OK could play him in solo, you'd see him in jungle, you could see him in support. Camazotz maybe doesn't have the same flexibility to support, but at least the solo jungle matchup gives him that shake-up that could come through. Fafnir locked in alongside that Chiron, but Merlin locked in for the mid lane. Pretty early pickup, but admittedly they get a solid top 3, even though Camazotz is unorthodox.
It is a little bit unorthodox, and there were some picks that you might have been willing to go towards a little bit more so, but this is certainly a draft that the Sturdy Artisans has run in the past. This is some of their best comfort picks, and that's exactly what they're trying to bring to the table. Something comfortable that they can perform on, and already, take a peek at how the draft's lining up. You've got great backline dive from Camazotz alone, can go into the backline with Blink, and then use Bat Out of Hell as a get-out-of-jail-free card if he ever goes a little bit too deep. Sobek is going to be a great initiator as well as appeal potential with that tail whip. And then once you get to the objectives, once you finally close gap onto Gold Fury, Pyromancer, or Fire Giant, well, Merlin's going to just do it for you.
Well, the Heimdall Hu Yi banned out here by the Sharks on the one side. The other side, Osiris Guan Yu. Osiris has been a very popular, like, 3rd, maybe 4th pick that's been able to come in, and now you're looking at a much smaller window for your solo laners, but still a lot of good warriors that are out there. Look, hey, I'm going to throw out Bologna's name, even though I know she's never going to get picked up, because, hey, guys, she exists. She even got some buffs recently, but it hasn't been enough, at least not so far. Maybe that'll change. Maybe no boots means Bologna can come through. She's already got those, like, great iron greaves on the front. Either way, it's going to be the Achilles lock-in. Also flexible, could still be going to the jungle.
Yeah, we have seen Achilles in the jungle a fair bit, but I think it is a little bit more so likely to head over into the Soul lane. Has a decent enough matchup into what I was going to assume was going to be a Camazotz solo, but now Gilgamesh gets locked in. Could be Gilgamesh solo, still very likely going to be Gilgamesh jungle with Camazotz out of the Soul lane. Relentless One, very apt to play that pick. And now that Thanatos gets locked in, we do get a much better look at this Tiburones draft. It is going to be Thanatos jungle with Achilles out of the Soul lane, Raijin in mid, Fafnir and Chiron holding out the long lane. We've already broken down the Artisans. Both of these teams coming away with very strong ones, but there are some glaring weaknesses. Last time we saw Cupid get picked up in the SPL level, did not do so very well, and has not been picked since. So we'll have to see whether or not the Artisans have something in their back pocket for it.
What I see on the Artisans right now, though, is a lot of survivability. I think that goes without saying. Like, Merlin, in and of himself, can kind of stay alive, but Camazotz is known to be able to get through a lot of stuff without much reason. He just does half the time. I mean, it's because his kit. Same thing for Gilgamesh. I look at Achilles, I look at Thanatos. Guess what I see right there? I see 2 big whopping executes. No Kepri res to eat through. But you get them low enough, even Cupid Hearts isn't going to be enough to save you from that.
And then once Gilgamesh uses that Hero's Leap to get in, well, he's kind of stuck there. Very easy to line up those ultimates, be it the Hovering Death or the Execute from Achilles himself. I like this draft. It's pretty strong from both squads, but maybe a little bit higher execution on the Tiburones side.
With literal executions that they have to be able to do to get there. We'll see if they can pick it up, the number 2 seed versus the number 1 here in the losers bracket. Let's see how it shakes out.
Gore, I can't believe you said those words, because if you'd have told me, Taco, that we were going to watch number 1, number 2 in the second round, would have been normal, right? But we're watching them in the losers bracket. Fuzzy Wuzzy's still here. And I just got to say, that just screams just Smite play right there for you.
Just goes to show the level of competition that some of these guys are working at, but it's also kind of expected, Fuzzy, when you factor in how much competitive experience a lot of these guys have underneath their belt.
Yeah, it just seems like when you just take a look all over, everybody was talking about Sina, who is piloting that Gilgamesh in the jungle. We know that this squad here for the Sturdy Artisans is probably the best in the NA. Everybody here has some sort of SPL level or is very close to that level. Mifflin said that Pagon is his man to go to the SPL, and I'm kind of right there with him. I've watched him grow as a mid laner, and the Sturdy Artisan squad, they're fantastic. They didn't play yesterday, so that's why they're down here, but they are the best team fighting team in the NA SCC, as we're probably going to start seeing here pretty soon, Taco.
Yeah, internet disconnections are never fun for anyone, but Sturdy Artisans, I mean, with the level of mechanical prowess that I think a lot of these players introduce, Pagan especially has certainly been making a name for himself in the mid lane, and this Merlin could be an excellent asset for trying to take down a lot of that stationary burst damage that the Tiburones actually have.
Well, Blue can get plucked in, but I'd like not to go with the Heart Bomb, Stuart. Just a little bit late on that. It's not going to be able to connect. But yeah, the Tiburones squad, I think the desk put it out the best. They just have so much that they have to execute on, and no pun intended there with 2 executes being on their squad. It just seems like that if one thing goes wrong, if something just happens that's out of their control, even the slightest bit, it's all over, and the Sturdy Artisans can pick this up just because of not only Stuart able to cripple everybody with Fields of Love, but just the fact that everybody has to dive in together.
Mostly taking note of the fact that there's just a lot of side lane pressure in general. I mean, Relentless One, rocking the Camazot, Sino on the Gilgamesh. It's going to be tough for the Tiburones to effectively defend every single one of these blue invade respawns. And Sino already looking to try and get a little aggressive here on the Cope Baby. Cope Baby going to get stunned into the wall. A nice mark off from Relentless One. And the kill is close for first blood. And Sino ready to jump into this one, Fuzzy.
Too easy. This is just what Sino does, right? He just jumps in, just going to go ahead and cleans it up. And he was on the enemy jungle. You were saying how much pressure they had on those side lanes, and that's just how it's going to be for Sturdy Artisans time and time again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Sino just camping over, making a little tent over there on the right-hand side, because no one really has made any sort of pressure on this left-hand side. They kind of just let the ADCs farm a little bit and just kind of make sure that they get to that point where they can be more effective in team fights. And that's where Guy J is going to shine. We saw a couple of glimmers of hope here and there in Game 2 yesterday, Taco, of him actually doing really good work. And I think with this Chiron, he's really going to pilot this Tiburones squad to new heights.
My concern here is that both of these duo lanes kind of just stalemate each other, Fuzzy, because you've got Cupid and Sobek. It's reliable and has a lot of survivability behind it as well, so it'll be tough for Guy J and Bluggen to actually try and find any sort of leverage, and he might need a little bit of assistance here as Relentless One, Sino looking to make the dive happen, but not enough juice just yet on that Gilgamesh. Relentless One having finally gotten that bat out of hell. Too little too late. Still some trouble here for Heed. He's going to have to be careful, but he does have the blink available. Could look for an upset play against Sino and Relentless One, but he's going to take it slow.
I think that's the best call. Just kind of take it slow, see if you can get it out. The Bat Out of Hell is there. He does have the ultimate available for him as well, so making sure that everything kind of goes in that way. When Sino's in the jungle, you just don't want to be on, and you want to be in the safety of your tower, right? Because Sino has just got so much pressure when he's on one side of the jungle or the other, and him just camping on the right side is definitely going to hinder Heat a little bit, but I think the Relentless One and he match up. We don't talk about too much. Both of these solo laners have been fantastic. He'd really just carrying the team, the Tiburones, in game 2, but just unfortunately they fell a little bit in. And Relentless One is the top solo laner in the SCC NA squad with this team, obviously helping him out. But these two names, we don't see a lot of head-to-head action. I think technically speaking, they're 50-50 when it comes to playing each other in the lanes. So it's going to be a fun matchup to watch. But Pagon on this Merlin, he is horrifying to watch. We have seen him time and time again just get in, do some damage, get out, and still continue to do amount of damage.
And that's kind of the fun part with Merlin, when you have so many abilities that you can kind of just dispense at once, makes it tough to live through. And that's why I really want to keep an eye on Ionic with this Sobek, because he can create a lot of space here for Pagan to really do some work. And it's going to be tough for Spring to survive because, again, a lot of those Raijin abilities, they come out in a relatively stationary positioning.
I really like the aggression that Sturdy Artisans are having. There is no place in the jungle where it is safe. Sino is over on the right-hand side, and now he's made his rotation to the left-hand side to steal away a purple buff from GaiJ, so he won't be able to have that little bit of attack speed. But countering that on the right-hand side, it looks like 4 members are over there as the left side Greater Scorpion is going to fall, and I would assume the right-hand side will fall in response for the Tiburones and the Sturdy Artisans. But some big pressure coming out, getting pings out saying Relentless One's right here. His leap is down, but the Bat Out of Hell is not. He's going to expend it to get away.
Looks like he ate a scythe right before he managed to get up into that Camazot's ultimate, and taking the smart route of just backing to base, had some gold to spend. And the removal of both of those Scorpions, Fuzzy, is going to make it interesting because it opens up a power play opportunity on either gold or that Pyromancer whenever it actually spawns. And that could be tough here for GaiJ because he's already under a lot of pressure here. Going to lose his Purification Beads to nice Fields of Love from Stuart, and now it's really just a matter of time, I think, before we start to see the Sturdy Artisans look for another invade opportunity.
Well, Sturdy Artisans have been known to be that team fight comp, and with Pagon usually doing an immense amount of damage, but a lot of damage was done to him, so he will have to back and try to just regroup himself and get everything situated that he needs to do. But I find it funny that you point out that GaiJ burned the beats, and now we're not seeing too much aggression over on that left-hand side. Obviously, Ionic is over there trying to help out Cupid, keep that pressure in that duo lane, but whenever you see beads down on a Chiron, he does have that giddy up and it is knock-up immune, but I would just say, hey, go for him. He's pretty much free at this point.
You could, but he does still have CC immunity from his ultimate, and all the focus seems to be one more time on the Cope Baby. A moderately successful steal onto Sino's back Harpies, but having to expend that Thanatos execute opens up the doorway one more time for Sturdy Artisans to try and play counter-aggressive, knowing that Cope Baby won't have a final dive in the back line.
Well, with the amount of burn potential that it can happen on the Sturdy Artisan side, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to focus this left-hand side until that Pyromancer spawns. 7 minutes in, the Gold Fury is up, Pyromancer is not, but they are going to like to make sure that GaiJ just keeps staying down and not going to be able to get his purple buff.
Every little bit counts, especially when it comes to that duo lane 1v1 that it's lining up to be more and more about, Fuzzy, because Stuart, he's been getting to do pretty much whatever he wants here, knowing that he's got solid rotations coming out of Sino and Ionic. Some of those early plays coming back to haunt the Tiburones, it seems.
Well, didn't quite see that Ionic was in the back, but able to get away and get those side camps as a blink comes out on Relentless One. Cope Baby now is in a little bit of a problem spot, but he is going to be here to help out his jungler. But the Bat Out of Hell will be expended, and Relentless One's able to pick up the kill on the jungler. In the mid lane, Bluegin's going to get plucked, and it looks like that Pagon's going to try to get some damage out. He's not going to be able to finish it, it seems. The Ice Charge just off the mark, and Bluegin's going to be able to get away.
Great escape there from Bluggin. Pretty lucky on the cooldown, just coming back up for him. But with that pick having happened onto the jungler, Cope Baby's in a tight spot now up against Sino, because Sino just going to elect to take his extra man pressure and pull this Gold Fury outright. Pagan not going to respond, and Merlin being such a great objective shredder, it's only a matter of time before Sturdy Artisans build themselves the first real lead in this game.
And that's going to do as the Gold Fury falls 8 minutes and 45 seconds in. We're about 2,000 gold in favor of the Sturdy Artisans, even though they're only 2 kills up. But a lot of items are being purchased. As you saw, a team back to make sure that everybody was available to get what they needed to get. Tier 2 items, a couple of Tier 3 items, just making sure everybody is good to go. And now that we're seeing the Gold Fury finally fall on this left-hand side, are we going to start seeing Cope Baby try to focus on the right-hand side and try to get Relentless One? He's focusing the right-hand side with these constant invades, but we have seen him kind of stay a little bit too long, as was his death earlier.
It might be unnecessary attention being paid into Sino's back harpies because it's not really slowing his farm down a whole heck of a lot. Relentless One actually profiting, but since Heed is splitting so much XP, Bat out of Hell going to be expended. Relentless One able to spot that Bluggen has now joined the fight here too, and Hammerstun is good. Draconic Form will come out. It's a full-on collapse here onto Relentless One, but he's still alive. T2 Tower going to be deep. 3 ultimates for a single Camazotz. And Relentless One does pay the price, Fuzzy, but I almost feel as though Sturdy Artisans might come out on top for it.
Yeah, every bit of that same scream Sturdy Artisans really won that fight. 3 ultimates expended doesn't seem a whole lot, but Guy J is going to get plucked, but it actually is going to be able to use the beads. But I liked what he did. He put the cleanse down as Sino was trying to drop kick him, and that cleanse kept him alive and not going into the wall, so he only had to expend the beads for Yannick. Great heads-up play from Guy J, as Yannick is just making sure that the pressure stays on this left-hand side. And I got to ask you, Taco, if you're Cupid here and you can kind of just do whatever you want, you're happy, right? Stewart's got to be a happy camper.
Usually you'd assume so, but it really just comes down that the happiness of a Cupid player really depends on how sick of a Fields of Love you can actually commit to in a team fight. So I think that Stewart's waiting for his moment to shine whenever he actually does get in on some of that team fighting action. But right now, with Sturdy Artisans, I figured that there would be some form of a punish where I was assuming that they might pull Pyromancer, given that 3 ultimates were just used on Relentless One. But it seems as though the group attention focus is still heavily leaning towards the duo side of the map. So Relentless One kind of not being left out to dry, but Sturdy Arts had made it clear that they want to play from elsewhere.
Yeah, once Stewart starts rotating, those Fields of Love, as you mentioned, are going to be really impactful. As now it seems that the teams are going to rotate again onto Relentless One. Bats are going to miss, but the leaps coming out. They were spotted on some wards. Bluegun's going to jump over the wall. Bat out of Hell will be expended. The stun will not connect because the Bat out of Hell was up. And he's going to be able to use that CC immunity to get away and get to the safety of his team and his support. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Spring taking a little bit of damage, but Ionic is here now over on the right-hand side with the help of Sino. Sino trying to see if maybe he can find any time to get in. The Winds of Shamash will drop. Cope Baby will pick up Ionic. And that's going to be the ultimate being used from Thanatos. See if he can fall right back on the Relentless One. It will not be the execute, but Pagon made a rotation over, and he's going to be able to pick up one. Bluga will be able to pick up Relentless One, and now Sino and Pagon are the only ones left. Flicker's going to be used. Pagon's going to get stunned, but the beads are going to come out, and it won't matter. Spring will pick him up with the ultimate, and that's going to be another one. Bluga picks up a double kill. 4 for 1.
Seems as though all that pressure and focus onto Relentless One with this Camazotz is starting to pay off pretty heavily here for the Tiburones. That's a very convincing team fight out rotation the whole way through there, Fuzzy. Right as it looked as though something was going to go right for Sturdy Artisans, you see Spreen coming through with the Raijin on that Tycho drums damage, and it's just a lot of punish here. Yannick absolutely melted by Heat on that Achilles.
Yeah, he just comes in and is able to do so much damage, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier, Taco, that Heed was the real reason why they were in Game 2. And Game 1 of this set, he's again the reason why they're kind of in it. He has been a part of all 5 kills for the side of the Tiburones. And with that, now when you start saying, hey, maybe Sino needs to start focusing more on the left-hand side, it's starting to maybe say, hey, I'm Relentless One. I need some help over here too, Sino. But Sino just looks at Heat and says, I don't think we can. And again, they're just going to focus Relentless One. Blink comes out. Cope Baby trying to see if he can silence Relentless One. But I think they continue this dive. It's a 2 for 1. A Scythe will hit. It's a little bit of slow, but the Tier 1 tower on the right-hand side will fall.
And Tiburones nicely done in opening up a lot of map pressure for them. This next Old Fury spawn could be the Oni Fury actually on this next spawn, and that's a pretty rough objective to lose, and he's going to have the advantage here over Relentless One since he's been acquiring so much farm from the constant back pressure that Cope Baby has been applying into solo lane. It's going to be tough now for Relentless One to try and have any sort of impact since he's just having his ultimate forced. He can't fight around the objectives with his team in the way that you would want a Camazotz to normally be harassing the backline. That option's just not on the table if his ult is constantly down.
Well, Bluegood is here trying to dissuade Pagon and Neonic from starting this Oni Fury, but Spreen and the rest of the squad are here. Dropkick's going to come out, but Bluegood's going to go up into his ultimate, actually being able to hit Sino with it. Sino Wind of Samashtra dropped, and he will fall. Bluegood is on a killing spree. The ultimate from the Taiko drums coming out. Here comes Thanatos, though. He's going to try to come in and come crashing down onto anybody. Stewart a little bit slow as he comes in and crashes on Pagon. Aegis is going to be expended, but it won't matter. Spreen will pick him up. And now GuyJ is going to be able to pick up Relentless One. Stewart is getting some damage done to him. The Raiju just not going to be enough to finish him off, but it will be enough to dissuade him from ever stepping foot near this Oni Fury.
A tough collapse for the Sturdy Artisans to eat, and the Tiburones are just going to keep the snowball swinging after picking up this Oni Fury here, Fuzzy, and it was just a one-by-one collapse yet again. Blugin, though, I think the unsung hero of that entire team fight by immune framing so many abilities that were getting dumped on him at once. I think that Sino really thought he was going to find that Gilgamesh stun kick into that Oracle Fury Center, and when that didn't come through, it was just the counter folding. That was the only option left, really. I like the slows, though. The Tiburones are playing incredibly well around all their slow options.
Yeah, they have been playing really well just as a team. They've been known to, give the Sturdy Artisans a little bit of a struggle, but I think here pretty soon the Sturdy Artisans passive will ensue, and they've been down before to this team, and about this amount of gold as well at this amount of time, 15 minutes in. As Pagon and Bluegun are roughly the same level, but Pagon does a little bit more damage. But with the help of Cope Baby coming up, Bluegun wants to make sure that Pagon doesn't have that flicker. The flicker expended, the beads come out, Silence comes out, Blink comes out from Sino as well, but Heed has made the rotation and will pick him up. Sino will pick up Cope Baby in response, but I think it's too little too late. 2 executes, double kill for Heed.
Really well played there again by Heed. He has been making such an impact with this Achilles, and now looking like a T2 tower is in the books here as the goal lead just continues to surmount to unpassable levels here for the Sturdy Artisans. It's going to take them some serious game delay in order to catch up to the Tiburones at this point, Fuzzy, and we might be looking at a runaway train here.
Yeah, the runaway train is starting to rear its ugly head, Taco, as you mentioned. 4,000 gold in favor of Tiburones, and at one point in this game, not only like 8-9 minutes ago, it was Sturdy Artisans, in fact, that held a 2,000 gold lead. Seems that Heed and Bluegun are kind of the stars of the show here, and that's not usually what you would say in terms of a support and a solo, but he just making sure that he hits those executes time and time again and has made himself presently known throughout the solo lane and throughout the mid lane, and then Bluegun, as you mentioned, just great mechanical setup.
Yeah, it's been a really well-played job here because I was a little skeptical at first, Fuzzy. I'll be honest, seeing Cope Baby apply so much pressure after eating an early invade, being first-blooded, normally you'd kind of want to write off a Thanatos at that point because a first blood really is a worst-case scenario almost every single time, but the recovery was great. He just continued to play through where the most pressure could be circulated, and that was stemming out of Heed. And Heed, again, this is a matchup that could really go either direction up against the Camazots. Camazots having a lot of that sustain to try and utilize, but I really like how in flow both Heed and Cope Baby have been with a lot of these invades, and despite taking deaths for them, they've still managed to come out on top.
Yeah, the Tiburones have been consistently on top ever since that 9 to 10 minute mark as GuyJ is hitting level 16. He's still behind of Stewart, though. Nothing too crazy about that, even though he has been a part of 3 kills. Stewart's just able to continue the farm and continue just make sure that his presence will be known at that level 20 mark. Sino, though, he's down a level. We saw so much aggression out of him in the early stage of the game, as you mentioned, and now he just kind of can't seem to do it. It sounds like what the desk was saying. Once he gets that jump in, he's just kind of stuck there, and I think that's what they've been baiting. It seems like that the Tiburones have been playing a little bit more of a reactive around Sino jumping in, because once he does full commit, the rest of the Sturdy Artisans have to follow.
Well, that's where you get to see the beauty of the Tiburones crowd control really come into play. There are so many slows available from just about every single one of those gods that they have drafted, but the most notable ones being on GuyJ and Spreen with the Raijin and Chiron combo. It is difficult for a Gilgamesh to continue initiating and trying to basically force the aggression when he's constantly being hit by multiple slow factors.
18 minutes in, it looks like a Fire Giant dance might be started up just a little bit over on this right-hand side. GuyJ has not been in. Blink comes out from He, trying to see if he can get onto Pagon. Unfortunately, Relentless One's going to get stunned out yet twice underneath the damage, but Fields of Love's going to come out. He's going to have to expend the ultimate. Bluegin's going to go and use those immunity frames to transform into the dragon, but I don't think it's going to matter. He's been sundered. He's been sent down. Ionic's going to pick up Blugin. Blink comes out from Relentless One to see if he can collapse onto Heed. Heed's ultimate is down as Blink comes out from Sino. Not going to connect the dropkick, but a Blink comes out. A Beats comes out from Heed. Bat out of Hell expended as well. Just try to give some damage out, but Spreen has made the rotation from the mid lane, and I think they're going to give up this tier 1 tower and try to defend the tier 2.
Ionic, though, still definitely looking for more. Doesn't have a Blink available, has that Sunder instead, and that's a big part of the reason why Blugin never died in the first place. On top of a well-timed pluck to prevent that Fafnir from escaping, punishing him for his lack of purification beads. There's a reason why we see it come out so often for supports, Fuzzy, and it's because it is one effective method for avoiding being the central target yourself. And Sturdy Artisans, on the back of that team fight, are going to manage to take out the Pyromancer, opening up an opportunity to possibly look towards the Gold Fury before trying their hands at that Fire Giant.
Well, we were waiting for Stewart to do something with that Fields of Love, and sure enough, it finally came out. 2 men inside that Fields of Love, having to expend a couple of ultimates as well. Stewart made the rotation at the right time, and that's what we wanted to see. But now, instead of what you were saying, Taco, of him starting over on this left-hand side, maybe looking at a Gold Fury, there's enough of them over here to maybe see if they can get their hands at a Fire Giant now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the gas pedal gets started once this Gold Fury drops, as it will fall into the hands of Tiburones because they're not spotted out. But because they're too far back, Sturdy Artisans are just going to let a Gold Fury ride away for free.
The lack of vision on that left-hand side came back to bite Sturdy Artisans in the butt there, Fuzzy. Had they known that that Gold Fury was going down and that Coat Baby and Gaijay were both the ones on it, I'm almost certain that they would have tried to force some form of a team fight into the Tiburones around that Fire Giant. Could have possibly looked at pulling it for free, but wards win games for a reason sometimes, and Sturdy Artisans will still be a decent ways behind Tiburones, but gold less and less important as the minutes tick on.
20 minutes in, they're now going to start around this Fire Giant dance, trying to see if they can get anybody out of position. I know Pagon's being a little bit too aggressive, it seemed, but Ionic was there just to make sure everything was good, throwing out some damage, just try to dissuade anybody really from really collapsing onto Ionic, who's level 14. He's just pushing up to try to see if he can find any sort of opening in this back line. Unfortunately, nothing yet. Blue can tell around with Heed, though, to see if maybe they can start something together. Relentless One is able to hit the bats, and now Relentless One has been stunned out, but not going to really collapse onto anything. Just trying to see if they can get sort of anything out of him. But Sino over on the left-hand side is going to go and push this middle lane. I think this is the time for the Tiburones to push the gas pedal, but instead, they're playing it just a little bit safe.
This is smart from Sino. He's opening himself up for a flank opportunity, also putting some pressure into the mid lane with those creeps now feeding into that T1 as Blugin will manage to escape half health in the process, and Tiburones are grouped up, but that might start to work against them into the odds of Pagan with this Merlin. It's actually going to be a retreat. Blugin too low to want to continue, and again, Fuzzy, that wave that Sino pushed in mid, T1 tower not looking particularly healthy. This should be a freebie with the members of Tiburones having to back, and having the map that opened up means that Sturdy Artisans can now chase even further into the Tiburones jungle should they contest this Fire Giant.
Well, the Fire Giant started, Frenzy's been popped as well, which means this is going to burn a little bit faster. Fields of Loves gets dropped, the Winds of Shamash as well, Sturdy Artisans pick it up. Spreen walked into his ultimate to try to see if he can steal it, but unfortunately not going to happen. Sturdy Artisans pick up the Fire Giant.
Well played and well executed map pressure focus out of the Sturdy Artisans. You don't necessarily have to deicide an entire team in order to get the advantages over these objectives, Fuzzy. Just the consistent force backs have really been the difference maker for these post 20 minute team fights out of the Sturdy Artisans.
Yeah, Sturdy Artisans have been just showing why they're the #1 seed and why they continue. Even they seem like that problem kind of like insect, right? Like when you step on a cockroach and it kind of just like you lift up your foot and it squirms away a little bit more, and you try to get it again and it squirms away to run a little bit more, and then you find like 30 of them inside of your pantry because for some odd reason that's just what happens. That's just what the Sturdy Artisans have seemed to have done. They keep, even though the Tiburones keeps trying to say that, hey, we're squishing you with this boot, they still just run away with no damage to them.
Tiburones have got to know better by now that if there's anybody who's not just going to roll over and let die, it's going to be Sino, Ionic. You have to remember, these guys have so much actual Pro League experience. They know the game's not over until you actually see that defeat screen. As Ionic, though, his life might be over. Execute going to come into play here, and Cope Baby, he won't be missing that one. Now Stuart going to be in a little world of trouble here. Pagan on the chase, but Stuart, he's going to be the one to help Pagan bring down Cope Baby.
As the Fields of Love are going to get dropped, he's going to try to see if he can collapse onto Pagon. Pagon's able to get away with a little bit of health. The Thunder Crash will land on the Stuart, but Stuart says not today, as a couple of autos will clean him up. Now Heed is going to be the target, it seems, as Pagon is still doing damage. He's able to pick him up. And with the Fire Giant still wrapped around their waist, they were able to get 3 for Ionic's life. And when you're a support player, Taco, it's kind of nice when you pay for the sins of your team and with a couple of kills, and they're still going to push this down. Relentless One just going to make sure that they get this tier 2 tower to start off with this push.
Ionic went down, but at what cost there for the Tiburones? So much expended just to bring down a single support, and Ionic, he'll take this trade all day long, because with 3 members still dead here for the Tiburones, that's a free Phoenix as could be, Fuzzy. Sino even going to dive deep into the backline, forces Guy Jade getting up into his fountain room, and there will be no more pushback from Blugget and Guy J, as they're forced to sit and watch the Sturdy Artisans do as they please in the jungle before taking out the T2 tower and left.
I think everybody deserves to see the gold chart for this, because it's pretty remarkable, as well as the XP chart. You'll start seeing it kind of come into waves, right? It's just incredible. Look at that, Taco. It was at one point just complete Tiburones, and it was a big old valley. It's like the Grand Canyon, and then of course at the Grand Canyon there's a side up that goes to it as well. So Sturdy Artisans bringing this game back from the depths, as now they hold a 2,000 gold lead with the help of these pushes, and now this Oni Fury yet again will spawn, and it will get absolutely deleted by the Sturdy Artisans.
Relentless One might be in trouble. Gonna just use the bat out of hell to make sure that he isn't. And Sturdy Artisans, they just get the leisure now, Fuzzy, of waiting for a full-on map reset, take their time, spend all that gold that they just acquired to get some of these 6 item slots going, upgraded relics, and most importantly, I like the fact that this team has really been backing in unison and grabbing wards in unison as well. It's made it really difficult for the Tiburones to look for any sort of surprise counterattacks to try and bring themselves to a 1 or 2 minute advantage for these objective fights.
What's interesting too, Taco, is the fact that Dex was kind of worried about how are they going to execute, and we saw how execute this comp can be. We saw them actually have the lead, and I think, as you mentioned, the wards that every time they back, and they always grab a sentry, and they always grab 1 regular ward, just the amount of vision that's coming out of Sturdy Artisan says, you can't kill us if we can see you before you see us. So just making sure that everybody is safe, especially Pagon, who even though he's fallen 3 times, has been able to push out significant amount of damage. Just look at the war charts alone. The only one that's down at the bottom was a Sino. But with the player damage, Pagon and Relentless One, the top 2 there, and that just shows how much free casting they're able to get.
And right now, it's tough for the Tiburones, as they know the Sturdy Artisans hawking that right side jungle, just waiting for the Fire Giant to spawn. They've got boarded vision advantage. They have map pressure advantage here, Fuzzy. Someone has to play defense for these mid-fire minions. Granted, mid-Phoenix, not as terrible to lose as if the Tiburones had lost their duo side Phoenix, but it still makes life that much harder to try and fight back into the Sturdy Artisans, because they've already got a super fast clear on objectives with Stuart and Pagan, and it's only going to be made that much more difficult when you're constantly have to worry about being killed in the process of defending.
Yeah, being killed is going to be really bad here, especially 27 minutes in. Anybody that gets picked out can spell disaster for either team, as the Fire Giant has spawned. And now we're going to start this wonderful dance to see which one's going to step out just a little bit further, who's going to overcommit. Ionic taking a little bit of damage, as Blugan and Heat are going to go onto the backline, and Stuart as well. Thanatos going to go up into the air, but look who just got absolutely deleted was Guy J. Guy J's looking a little bit weak. Stuart will pick up Blugan, Kopebi will pick up Sino, and now Relentless One is a little bit alone as he will get Thunder crashed on, but Kopebi will pick up the double kill. And now he's going to try to see if anything, but Stuart will be able to pick him up with his own double kill. He's now going to focus on the Heat as help with Ionic and Pagon. The slows will come out from this ultimate, and it will happen. Stuart gets the triple kill.
It was almost perfect there for the Tiburones, but a little bit too split between their front line and their back line. The focus just got diverted too heavily from Stuart, and whenever an ADC gets the cast, Fuzzy, this is typically the end result. Now Fire Giant, one more time, looking to go into the hands of the Sturdy Artisans, and Tiburones still not out of this just yet. They have a very strong base defense with that Raijin.
Yeah, Raijin can set up great base defenses. As not only that, but you also have to think Bluegan with this Fafnir, if he's able to get the coerce off, and as he did in the Gold Fury pit that we saw, just get abilities casted on him while he's in that immunity frame, that could spell disaster for the Sturdy Artisans as well. So maybe they're playing around that a little bit more patiently as this tier 2 tower will fall. And Taco, you got to set it up around, it seems, Spreen right now for this Phoenix defense, because everything seemed to have gone according to plan in the early stages of the game around Heed and around Coat Baby and around Bluegan, just making sure that everything gets around. Guy J has been around some of these fights, but I don't think we've seen him much in sense of the player damage, just because he's just kind of been around. He's throwing out some abilities. He's able to get that training exercise, but if you take a look, he's at the bottom, Taco.
Guy J has been largely having to play from a much more passive positioning because he knows that if he steps just a little bit too far forward, the Tiburones team comp is a lot more dependent on kill or be killed mentality here, Fuzzy. And Guy J, if he goes too far ahead of the rest of his team, Sino, Relentless One, they'll be sure to gobble him up in no time at all. And I think that's why he's kind of being forced to take the back seat here. And that does apply a lot more pressure onto Spreen and Coat Baby because it's tough for Thanatos being so close range dependent to try and make a difference.
This left-hand side Phoenix now seems to be the target. Weaken Phoenix, though, in the mid lane as it gets pinged out saying, hey, we do have a minion wave here. We can look for something if we so choose. Spreen is going to be over on the left-hand side with Bluegan to try to defend that. Relentless One and Sino on the mid Phoenix just to see if they could push this wave up a little bit. But with Coat Baby and Heat, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to do. But Ionic is over on the left-hand side seeing if maybe he can help out his mid and carry. He's going to try to get some damage out onto Relentless One. Coat Baby is able to take a little bit of poke from Relentless One as well. Sino's just floating around. I like what Sino's doing, just kind of floating around the jungle and see which team steps up first, as Bluegan's going to get a great stun onto Ionic, but he's going to dash away.
The wave clear, though, is what I'm mostly taking note of right now, Fuzzy, because Sturdy Artisans are having a tough time trying to actually work their way into this left side Phoenix. Mid Phoenix, a little bit less than half health, but it's still going to take a lot of time here. Sino and Relentless One just going to commit to the fight now.
Why not, as the Bat Out of Hell expended, as well as the Hovering Death to see what can happen. But he will hover Death all the way to the safety of his fountain. Over on the left-hand side, too, the Phoenix took a little bit of hits as well. But because of that weird engagement over in the mid-Phoenix, they're going to not have to worry about it too much, as Sturdy Artisans will back away. Relentless One is still around, though, just making sure that Coat Baby understands that, hey, I'm a tanky Kamazatsu, and I'm going to make sure that you can't keep this Phoenix alone for too long. Sino has now made the commit over on left-hand side. Friends, he's going to get popped, wins the Shamash as well. Stun comes out, and Sino has to pop the beads, as well as Bluegan is going to get caught in the Fields of Lava. Stewart's going to be on a rampage, picking him up. Ionic taking him out of damage from the Phoenix, as Heed is going to try to get the execute off just to get back to the safety of his Phoenix.
A smart disengage there from Ionic, and without that fatal strike, he's going to have a tough time actually bringing down some of these frontline members. It's a do-or-die instance here for the Tiburones, as Ionic will use the sustain out of that Cupid Hearts to keep himself a little bit tankier. Left side Phoenix finally going to fall. He's going to have to use his Purification Beads just to get out of dodge, and Sturdy Artisans really starting to utilize a little bit more of this dive potential out of the Kamazatsu and Gilgamesh, and that's made it tough for the Tiburones defense.
As this mid-Phoenix will likely fall pretty soon as well. The defense now is going to be around the Titan room, and Taco, I just saw this, and I need to ask why. Void Shield on Cupid gives him a little bit of like tankiness around that. Totally understand with Guy J and Heed and Coat Baby, but is it specifically for the protection, like for him to make sure that he doesn't die as quickly to this? Like, what is the purpose of this Void Shield pickup?
The biggest threat right now to a Cupid, he has a very predictable dash outcome. You know exactly where he's going to land. It can be easy for an Achilles and a Thanatos to follow him all the way through it, and that Void Shield is just going to make it all the more easier for Stort to not only buy himself time for a team rotation, because in all honesty, Stort should never really be far enough away from his team that he would really need to use the Void Shield. His positioning has been so strong throughout this match already. I haven't seen him do anything without a tank right in front of him, usually Ionic, but it's kind of just a just-in-case clause here, Fuzzy. It's not really a necessity, but it's more of a comfort aspect in this build, and it's certainly making it kind of more pointless for Heat and Coat Baby for some of the Fizz protections that they do have to be as heavily targeted towards him.
Yeah, it just seems like that. As you mentioned, it was a just in case. It was like a get out of jail free card in case something bad happens to the team and he's able to get away scot free as the fire giant will spawn, and this is going to be enhanced. So now every team wants to be a part of this. Blink coming in from Heat, and he's going to collapse immediately onto Stewart. Stewart's going to pop the beads and dash away the Fields of Love as well. He's get mezzes out by the Fields of Love, and Blue can transform and tries to dash away, trying to see if he can collapse onto Sino, but he will actually stun out Ionic. The Winds of Shamash were dropped as well onto the back line. Relentless One now trying to see if he can get onto Cope Baby. Frenzy was popped for the Tiburones, and that's going to be one for Heat. The Bat Out of Hell will be expended again, and Heat's going to have enough damage to hopefully get off the execute again. Bluegun in the back taking almost all of his health. He's going to be able to get away scot-free, and now the rest of the Tiburones are going to push in, but Relentless One will pick up Cope Baby, and now it looks like the turn could happen, so the Tiburones will try to disengage.
Too many whiffs from the Camazotz, but the damage has already been done. Tiburones' base is under siege. Bluegun, the only one that was actually able to back him fast here without that Draconic form, might not have the opportunity to defend, and sure enough, Fire Minions will be the difference maker. After all that, Fuzzy, for it to boil down to just a matter of Fire Minions overwhelming the base, a little bit tragic there for the Tiburones. They had some good moments, but unfortunately were not able to power through.
I just find it funny, right? We've seen in the SPL Tiamat minions doing some damage on the Titan, but this time they just left open that left-hand side Phoenix. You mentioned it was the most important Phoenix to get if you're going to try to do a Fire Giant Siege, and that just proves it. You know, you can't get back there in time, and I really liked what the Sturdy Artisans were doing. Just say, hey, they can't get back in there. Might as well just keep it in.
Yeah, it was just a really well-executed team fight. They made sure to just drag it on, and that's really all they need to do. Had some question marks going at first until we actually got a chance to look at the mini-map, and, well, Fire Minions kind of just ended game one.
Well, Minions will do it up for game number one. We'll be right back to throw it to the desk after this break.
Welcome to my world. 오랜만이 나로 반겨말아 걸어 내게 맡겨 결국 모든 것이 바꿔야 해가 뜨고 눈을 감아 엉켜버린 사이코 같은 패턴에 눈이 돌아 몇 년 동안 사이코 네가 잠이 들 땐 너와 함께 하고 싶어 미쳐버린 내가 과연 너를 이해되나 싶어 밤만 되면 이러는 게 병인가로 싶어 하지만 다시 밤이 찾아오면 나 I got that fire I got that juice 밤이 되고 난 vampire 개처럼 물 안 베린 on my empire with that loop feeling like I'm Alexander 다 빛이 내리쬐며 밤이 돼 난 vampire 밤이 되면 난 vampire okay 내리쬐지 Beethoven의 World War I'm sipping juice from that moonlight 지정한 silver yeah 언제나 정반대 밤이 되면 동공은 확대되지 Monday through everyday 창조 중 그 외나 밖에 모두가 잠들 때 너는 더욱 맑아지는 느낌 변한 끝에 살아도 평생 나는 지신 묶임 I don't know 그저 내 삶이라 되는지 잡아봐 내가 어디까지 가는지 그걸 내 고리는 하고도 과연 내가 빛을 내지 못하는지 악마를 내가 가라앉기를 원하지 불꽃이 꺼지길 원해요 but 언제나 빛이 나니 정답이 뻔했지 정답이 I got that fire I got that juice 밤이 되고 난 vampire 개처럼 물 안 베린 on my empire with that loop feeling like I'm Alexander 다 빛이 내리쬐며 밤이 돼 난 vampire 밤이 되면 난 vampire okay 내리쬐지 Beethoven의
There's no need to complicate things. Let's stick to the basics. We both know what we want. Let's just keep it simple. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We dance on the same wavelength. This feels like a new beginning. We both know what we want. Let's just keep it simple. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So won't you let me trip with you? Leaning on fire.
Well, the sturdy Artisans don't necessarily care how they got here. All that matters to them is that they're up 1-0 now. A very back-and-forth game, Mifflin, in game number 1. I mean, early on, you see them get a couple of kills. A few minutes later, you see them down a lot of kills. And then a few minutes later, all of a sudden, they're standing at the base with fire minions pouring in and helping them out and giving them the assist that they needed. I mean, very back-and-forth. Does kind of live up to at least what I was thinking, but maybe a little more... this is going to sound mean, but EU pace. They were definitely a little more patient with it as opposed to just trying to tackle everything at any left turn the way we're used to seeing in North America.
Completely agree, man. I mean, there was a point in that game where we were chilling in the green room. You looked up and said, wait, what happened? When I looked down, it was 2-0 for the Artisans. Look back up, all of a sudden,
it's
the Sharks have it 8-3. Yeah, that's the quick pace, but it didn't amount to much in the early game. It really was an elongated pace in order to find those real objectives to start finding separation inside of this match. In particular, there was a bit of a stumble from the Sharks towards that mid-game where they weren't able to utilize their lead to push it further. It felt like that high execution draft really was coming back to bite them. They weren't quite able to find all the initiations that they needed. And then from there, you're not going to leave an opening for the top seeds. Sturdy Artisans have veteran shot callers like Sino. You give them a singular opening, he's going to take Fire Giant from 3,000 gold down, completely shift the pace of the game, and that's exactly what happens.
And I mean, you look at the start of these highlights, it was 4-10, 4-11, 5-11, somewhere in there. This was the fight, I think, that really kind of broke the back of the Tiburones. A triple kill picked up for Stewart. Things went a lot smoother from there in their favor, and sometimes that's all you need. I mean, this Cupid, we were kind of iffy about it coming into this, and Stewart just showcased that not only is it going to work, it's going to go 5-0-4, and it's going to look damn good doing it.
I really was not expecting it, man, especially up against this composition that the Sharks have. I mean, Taco kind of touched on it a little bit on that cast, and that one of the main weaknesses of Cupid is how predictable his movement is. That dash is the same distance every single time. It only goes one direction, and that's all he has insofar as self-peel, besides maybe dropping the Fields of Love for yourself. But up against a Thanatos, well, dash is down. Very easy to close that gap. Fields of Love, who cares? Sense of Death gives you slow immunity. It just felt like, for some reason, Stewart was allowed a lot more space to operate than I was really expecting, because the Sharks had the tools to deal with them.
A lot more wiggle room than they should be afforded, especially considering you're a shark. They want to keep you in a cage locked up. They smell blood in the water, though. They just weren't quite able to snap down and get the win that they wanted. Sturdy Artisans now up 1-0, which means that one game is all that separates the Tiburones here from getting eliminated. And that is where things can get a little murky for you. I mean, you lost yesterday's set. You were hoping to come back in, have today be the turnaround. This has not historically been a set that is, I want to say, great for the Sharks. I mean, it was 2-1 once for them, 2-1 once against them. It's again, maybe a coin flip between the two, but it does feel like right now the pressure is on here as we move into picks and bans for game number 2, Mifflin. I mean, what kind of changes do you make? Like you said, both of these drafts were really solid. There's just a little bit of wiggle room maybe to change things.
I'd like to see the Sharks pick something a little bit more consistent insofar as engage. I want a simple tool. I'm a simple man. I like simple engagements. Dash
like
forward,
hammer.
find a confound, or a hammer, anvil of dawn, a Fafnir, something along those lines to make sure that these engagements are getting off on the right foot. How many of the times in that last match do we see the Sharks, all right, we're stepping forward, what are we going to do? What's our CC? Achilles stunned. One guy. That's all we have. Unfortunate. We couldn't get much off of it. But I'm just saying that with an execution-based draft as they had, it was very hard for them to find clean team fights, and I think that's something that's pretty easy to clean up in P's and B's.
Well, pretty much any top pick you can think of taken off of the board here. You've got your King Arthur, your Cullen, your Raijin, as well as your Tiamat, your Giannis, and your Yamoja over there. And lo and behold, we go right back to where we were in game number 1, the first pick, Camazotz, that came through. Ultimately, it was a jungle pick, although we will mention again that he can be played in the solo lane as well. And so far, rinse and repeat, Chiron locked in as well.
I mean, the Sharks' top 2 picks were just incredibly strong last time around. You're not going to catch me arguing against a Chiron almost ever. But there are still plenty of things that can go towards Fafnir. Going to be picked up yet again this time around as well. But there is the potential for them to take something like a Soul inside of the mid lane to maybe get a little bit more value from the Coerce out of their support. I like it. I like their draft. It's clean so far, but let's make it a little bit easier to execute on. We don't need double executions inside of Achilles and Thanatos. Maybe something that can close gap a little bit more easily. Something like a Fenrir so that this Cupid can't be free. But the Sturdy Artisans will get the raid boss music rolling through here. Sino likely cackling like Goremizer right now. That E-set, that's probably going in the jungle.
That's so weird that's like, I mean, well, I guess when it's locked in with a Merlin, you kind of know that it's not going to be going into the mid lane, but it's so bizarre. I guess unless we're, what was that, season 6? Maybe it was season 5, the Merlin long lane. Like, we had a lot of mages hanging out over there.
Snoopy? I think that was Snoopy.
Yeah, a lot of, well, Snoopy also used to play Vulcan ADC, so maybe we could just throw that one out there along with this. E-set going now into the jungle. Well, more than likely going into the jungle. Something that Sino has been running. That sounds crazy. Look, if you're watching this the first time you've ever seen the SCC, you think we sound absolutely insane. But the only person more insane is Sino, who runs it and wins with it.
And he does it all the time. And it's not like a pocket pick
it's
anymore.
It's not like once. He's done it multiple times.
He's not tricking anybody. He just does it. And it for some reason works. That traditionally, when you play against unorthodox junglers that are susceptible in the early game, that's how you want to deal with it. You don't want this E-set to hit the ground running, so you want to pick something that is aggressive, that can deal with what she does best, and shut her down inside her own jungle. This Thanatos pick coming through from the Sharks, a reprisal from game 1, I think is going to have a much easier time performing this time around. E-set has consistent channeled damage through Wind Gust. Well, you could just silent it out with the Death Scythe, or you can chase her out with your own ultimate. There are ways that you could deal with this E-set before she becomes the threat that you associate it with.
A lot of key factors that are going to be playing here, but look, I see Chiron, Fafnir, Guan Yu, Thanatos, Scylla. That's a great lineup. Like, Thanatos is maybe the shaky portion of it, but you said take care of the early game. Guess who can take care of the early game? But look, Ymir, Heimdall, Merlin, Camazotz, and this is actually very important, the E-set. Merlin brings in Burn, E-set brings in Secure. I think the objective play on Sturdy Artisans to me, like, that's frightening in my eyes. I'm looking at Furies, Fire Giants, all of that. If they get to a point where they feel stable, let alone ahead, I don't know how you get in and deal with that.
This could be the single-handed best objective-based composition that you could ask for. Fantastic Burn from Merlin and Circle Protection, the ultimate from E-set, is legitimately the best confirmation in Smite. There's nothing better. You don't want anything else. Not only does it have phenomenal burst damage, but it heals your team on the tail end, gives you damage mitigation when you're inside the circle as well. It just makes it so hard for anyone to want to fight into you once you establish a defensive positioning around these neutral objectives. Keep your eyes on the Artisans. That's likely what they're looking to do.
Well, it's do or die for the Tiburones de Tijuana. Now they have to find a win. Let's see if they can do it in game 2.
Thank you, Gore and Mifflin. Fuzzy, and I'm Fuzzy, and still with me is Taco. And Taco, we do see Sino pull out the E-set jungle yet again. I believe this is his 4th time doing it just in the season alone in the phase. And the desk was talking about it, right? E-set has the best objective secure in the game, period. No one else can really match up to it. And then you have Ionic on Ymir, who gives another circle a layer of it as well, who also has some pretty good secure in him alone. I think they're trying to go with this objective comp because that's what brought them back into the game in game 1, was just killing these objectives quickly.
Yeah, Scylla can be great for objective contest and even trying to out-secure the Isis ultimate, although it's a lot more difficult to do and does depend on the Isis kind of slipping up the timing, which is something I wouldn't anticipate from Sino. But more importantly, Fuzzy, this is just all early game composition from the Sturdy Artisans. They are not looking to give Spreen, or anyone for that matter, on Tiburones, an opportunity to reach those relevant periods of power spikes to actually try and contest. And the blink stun already going to come out from Sino. Coat Baby in a world of trouble here, but the Ice Blast is going to miss from Pagan. Autos could be enough to get the job done, and Pagan will get one more shot to snipe him out. Coat Baby never given the opportunity to escape. Didn't even get a chance to use those beads that he opted for, and 1-3 so telegraphed from Cope just made it possible for Saigon and Pagan to punish.
I really like how the blink came out from Sino, because if I'm Cope Baby, right, I'm just doing my camp, just making sure that Cecilia throws a crush over there to get some damage on, and then all of a sudden I blink and I'm stunned by the E-set that just walked over the just blinked over the wall essentially and just said, hey, I'm going to kill you now, accept it and move on. And Pagon was able to get the clear off, as now Spreen taking a little bit of damage, but that's where Cope Baby comes in. He's able to silence out that Wing Gust, which is going to help make sure the pressure doesn't quite fall too early.
But the Scythe being on cooldown means that Sino gets a freebie on stripping away those back Harpies. Doesn't take ESET very long to clear those camps either. Ionic, though, could be in some trouble. Beads will come out as Bluegan finds a nice Sunder onto the Amir. But the disengage strong enough, and Bluegan won't be able to really continue the fight any further. Keep an eye, though, Fuzzy, on this right side jungle, because that's where I'm expecting Sino to spend a lot of time here with this ESET. You'd expect Thanatos to have the one-up in this matchup, but Sino has the advantage, I think, due to the range stun that he can try and utilize against Cope.
Yeah, the range stun with that Spirit Ball just coming out, and now that you can explode it whenever you're CC'd, in any case if Bluegan was to hit a hammer onto him while it is happening or anything like that, can really make sure that the E-set just doesn't fall off in that certain time, as Ionic taking a little bit more poke on this left-hand side. And I do like what we're seeing out of Bluegan and Gaijay. We didn't see this much aggression in Game 1, but now we're starting to see it push down a little bit more, and I guess that's because Gaijay is a little bit more comfortable with the comp that he's got dealing with it. And we have to talk about Heed, right? He was a big factor in how the Tiburones were able to come back into Game 1 and start just trouncing on everybody. And as Mifflin said, the Achilles only has a stun. He gets one guy, it's over. But Heed now is piloting a Guan Yu, and with that cavalry charge, Taco, that just screams, I'm going to stun everyone in the back line.
Usually, but what I'm looking at, Fuzzy, is the fact that Heed, if he tries to commit that charge, that cavalry charge into a team fight, he could find himself in a world of trouble. Stuart, he's fine. He walks that one off, no problem. That's why I never had a doubt for him getting out there. But going back to that Guan Yu discussion, actually, we're going to have to put that on pause because Bluegan's still trying to make the action happen in mid.
Oh, he's going to try, and he's going to get walled away. He already leaped in, but a great flicker from Pagon's going to keep him away because Kopebi spot out. But Spreen's going to come dashing in to see if he can get Ionic out. And unfortunately, the crush will not land, so that will slow that push just a little bit longer. But Pagon getting away pretty quickly, and I think there was a ward actually on that Oracle side, and that's where he was able to make sure that he doesn't get caught out by Kopebi.
Nice awareness there from the team. And one more time, Fuzzy, going back to that Guan Yu discussion, the cavalry charge, it's just not going to be fun, kind of like how it isn't fun right now for Cope Baby. Scythe going to be off the mark, and that was his only survivability clause. Relentless Poppy now going to toy with rotating to mid, but it's Bluegan dying from over the wall. Beautiful setup from Sino on that Spirit Ball, ensures that those ice shards are going to get the last tick out of that Merlin Blizzard. And Spreen could potentially still be in trouble here. Sino not done with that right side jungle just yet.
I just liked how we said earlier, hey, the Sturdy Artisans want to play for the early game. And, you know, Sino having this E-set, he can kind of run a map, and we're seeing it how it happens again, right? The Spirit Ball through the wall at perfect distance to where you just can't quite see if it's going to stun or not, and it actually is able to get the stun off, and then Pagon just going, and I'll basic attack one more time just to get it over. Just a great play from the Sturdy Artisans jungler to make sure that he keeps going with this. Now, even though it's only a level lead, it's a level lead pretty consistently in every lane, including the support, just because of the amount of pressure that Sino has given the entire map.
It's just so unfortunate to be Bluegan in that situation there, Fuzzy, because he did everything right as far as trying to avoid the damage. He was hugging the right side of the wall, and that actually leads to his downfall, because that crevice is the only spot where that Spirit Ball had the potential to range through and help Pagan with securing the kill. But that was just not a whole lot you can do. You got to feel for the Fafnir in those situations.
Well, he taking a little bit of poke from Relentless One, as there was some pressure over on that right-hand side, just to make sure the Relentless One can get some back camps for himself, and he was able to do so. Ionic and Pagon just going to make sure the mid's happening, but Cope Baby Looking like he's going to try to see if he can get Pagon out of position. Is able to get the silence off. The scythe will connect, and he will get silence and need to get the flicker. The flicker will happen. Sunder comes out, but it does not connect. And now Cope Baby has to use that hovering death to completely disengage.
Just not enough damage there from the Sunder to actually put Pagan into that execute threshold. But Sino, on the other hand, going to evade that giddy up knockback using that Wing Gust on his own. Cope Baby, though, he's going to be the first to fall in this engagement. As now Blugan could be in a world of trouble here if he's not careful. Wall not going to be able to reach, though. Yannick will sit fast on that cooldown for the time being. And the fight disperses for the most part. But the little leads are what's really starting to take over here. And Guy J not having those purification beads now means he could get home run by Stewart if he's not careful with his positioning.
Yeah, and Sino has made the rotation over on that left-hand side. They definitely look like they want to see if they can get Guy J out now that they know his beads are down. Trying to see if they can get anything out of there. They do know that the purple buff is going to be coming up here pretty soon. Sino's around. Blink's going to come out. He's going to silence. That's going to be the circle of protections and just get blown up as quickly as I was talking. Guy J will fall to Sino.
And that's the downside to this ESET jungle, and having been able to farm as easily as she has been this whole time. But hold that thought, because he now, and a little bit of aggression here out of Ionic, and Relentless One loses his blue buff. Pretty big blow for the Guan Yu. Granted, it is a little bit later in this laning phase, but it's every little bit counts at this point, especially in terms of experience, because Relentless One is slowly but surely climbing ahead. And I can't say slowly but surely for Sino. He's got a landslide of experience over Cope Baby now.
Yeah, 3 levels just in the jungle alone. And I don't know if you caught it, Taco, but there was a surrender vote has started popped up in the middle of my screen. So the Tiburones are definitely feeling the pressure from Sino. They're feeling the pressure from Sino, and they're trying to get some pressure for themselves. Cope Baby and Blugan are over on this left-hand side. See if maybe they can catch anybody trying to get to this red buff as it was invaded. Pagon going to make sure that he gets some back camps, but he is walking over a ward, and now he's going to get jumped on by Blugan. The flicker out will be able to get disengage. He's going to try to hit the scythe. The beads come out. Sunder does come out as well. He's going to go up into the hovering death, and he will try to come crashing down, but Pagon is still not able to get stunned out. But there it comes. Spreen's able to pick up one. Stewart's able to pick up Cope Baby, and now Spreen's trying his hardest to get something, but Stewart will fall. Spreen will pick up a double kill, but the man himself, Sino, will pick up Spreen in response. A 2-for-3 trade in favor of the Sturdy Artisans.
Could have been worse there for the Tiburones, fighting that close to the opposition's base when you're the one that's largely been playing on the back heel. And Guy J, well, he might be experiencing the getting worse part that we were just talking about here, Fuzzy, because he will eat the full extent of Sino's kit on this ESET, and there's just no room for him to try and get out of that one. One more time, giving Stewart all this freedom to just free farm as much as he wants, and Relentless One will take advantage of that gap right now in dual lane from pressure and just non-stop aggress into Cope Baby's jungle.
It's just crazy that Cope Baby, I feel like it's kind of unfortunate, right, that they're playing so well, and then there's Sino says, hey, I'm going to pull out the ESET jungle, and we're going to watch it yet again as he's now on a rampage, just absolutely demolishing Cope Baby from our eyes, as that 2-level lead is starting to rear its ugly head, about to be a 3-level lead, as an invade did come out on the red buff, and the Sturdy Artisans were able to pick it up. And now, it looks like that they might look for this Gold Fury, a Greater Scorpion, but at 9 minutes in, Taco, when you're 4,000 gold ahead, I don't know what you can do. I mean, except for Heat to just fall as well, because the Bat Out of Hell will be expended and one more swipe will do it. But the Cavalry Charge comes out, the Leap will finish it out, and this is just all downhill. And the Sturdy Artisans just, it seems like to me, when we're talking about early game, you need to win the early game. Sturdy Artisans are doing just that.
Again, this was not a game that Sturdy Artisans were intending to go past that 20-minute mark, Fuzzy. This one is quickly being pulled out from underneath Tiburones. And most important part here to know, Cope Baby, this poor man has not had a single opportunity to try and silence Sino, and the reason being the range at which he needs to be in order to catch out Sino from that Wing Gust puts him in the perfect counter initiation phase for the Spirit Ball. He's never going to get that Thanatos silence off prior to Sino's release on that Spirit Ball, the stun into an immediate silence, unless he drops his Purification Maze, and even then, the burst damage from this ESET pick is so strong, he has just died every single time before he's really had any sort of opportunity to try and counteract what the ESET actually provides. It was just a really smart pocket pick here from Sino. It's something that I think everyone in the SCC knows at this point he's capable of. So it is a bit surprising that in the picks and bans, they opted to leave that God open, knowing that they wanted to try and run Cope Baby back on the Thanatos, given that you said has such a strong matchup into this God. But risk first reward across the board here, and Sturdy Artisans, if they hadn't made this work, they might have been the ones in a lot more trouble. Sino, though, might have bit off a little bit more than he could chew, canceled that. He's going to find his victory escape as Blugan will eat Niflheim.
Well, he's going to come crashing back down. Pagon's going to pick up Spreen. Pagon's going to pick up Cope Baby. Will he be able to get the triple kill as Stewart's able to actually pick up Blugan in response? 3 members fall for the Tiburones, and now that red buff will fall very quickly. The Gold Fury has spawned if they so choose to do so. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine they could just do it whenever they want to. They have so much freedom and so much pressure on this left-hand side of the jungle that it will get started up, and Sino's going to take away GuyJ's purple buff yet again, as this Gold Fury will fall in favor of Sturdy Artisans, as well as the Tier 1 tower in mid.
And at this point, Fuzzy, it's not really so much about the gameplay itself. This is largely starting to transition into more of a mental match here for the Tiburones, because it is just grim in every single aspect. You can't really play out a duo lane. There's no pressure to leverage there. GuyJ, in fact, about to eat the dive of his lifetime. He is full-on ADC treatment. Spirit Ball off the mark, but there is still nowhere left for this Chiron to run. Can't even kill Yannick if he wanted to. Yannick gonna eat the tower shot just because why not? And Sturdy Artisans just continue to show how commanding this lead is.
Sino, these people have families. They have a dream, and they did such a great job. The Tiburones did fantastic in game 1. They actually had a lead. They did really well, and I don't know what happened. Maybe it was something in the mental that happened, Taco, but it just seemed like everything kind of went crashing down for them. And if you just solely take a look at Sino's stat line, you would say, yeah, that's pretty good. But then you take it over everyone else's stat line and you go, oh, this is not where we want to be. 15-2 overall in favor of Sturdy Artisans. We're about to hit 10,000 gold lead in favor of them before the 15-minute mark. Is this when you usually you can't reset, right? There is no game 3 if you lose this one. You have to take this one for the distance. So what can the Tiburones do to even try and attempt to get to the distance?
Their best bet is to just start 5-man grouping immediately and hoping that they can find punish picks from Sturdy Artisans if they happen to get lazy on the backside, but Heed won't even get a chance to finish clearing this minion wave. A 4-man rotation now, and a Spirit Ball to be the killing blow onto this Guan Yu. The team fight aspect, it's largely out the window here, Fuzzy, because these experience disadvantages are just so steep now for the Tiburones. Their only opportunity is to pray that the Sturdy Artisans somehow slip up on an objective pool or an overextension, but grouping is their best bet at finding a pick, and even then, it's looking kind of sus.
Well, 14 minutes in, there is a 15-level lead overall between the teams, as now the wall's going to come out. Yannick's going to hit Spreen, and Spreen's going to have to dash away. He's going to try to see if he can get out of there, but Pagon will pull Blugan back in, and he's going to make sure that Blugan takes a lot of damage. He will come up. Crush will come up as well, but Yannick will pick him as he comes right back down because of the damage from Sino and Pagon.
And that's your tank, by the way. Just getting absolutely dismantled. Sino gonna keep it going. Spreen doesn't even get an opportunity to try and Scylla her way out of there. Pagon with a double kill now into Cope Baby. Health bar non-existent as well. GuyJ can't even find Solitude under the safety of his T2 tower. Pagan still harassing this poor man in between the T2 and Phoenix. And GuyJ might live for the time being. Phoenix is, on the other hand, getting slowly cleaned up here by the Sturdy Artisans.
It's just clinical for the Sturdy Artisans as another Spirit Ball lands on the Blugan and takes almost half of his health. The Bat Out of Hell will finish it off. Relentless One is on a killing spree, and I think pretty much everybody on the Sturdy Artisans are either on a killing spree or greater, except for maybe Yannick, who only has 2 kills to his name. He's been a part of 14 of the 20 kills. GuyJ just throwing out an ultimate to say, hey, where you at? Hopefully someone's low, and nothing able going to come from that ultimate, as Relentless One's just going to try to see if he can get out of this as Spreen trying to see if he can get a root off, but Relentless One gets the blink away.
And you'd think that with Sino having a score line of 6-0-10 that he would be the most farm member on his team, but it's actually going to be Pagan out in front here with this Merlin, and Fuzzy, that's really only adding salt to the wound here for the Tiburones, because any sort of hopes that they might have had for contesting this Fire Giant completely out the window. There is no shot that they tried to just kill themselves for free, essentially, if they try to defend this Fire Giant, they're going to have to take their chances on their last two standing Phoenixes. Those T2 towers, probably not worth trying to defend at this point unless they get some sort of miracle pick beforehand.
And the miracle pick probably has to be on Sino, or at least someone in the backline. Stewart doing some pretty good damage as well now that he's started making the rotations to these team fights. If you take a look on the minimap, you'll see that everybody on the red side is avoiding the right-hand side of the map because they know that the squad and the man himself, Sino, is just pushing down this right-hand side tier 2, and it will fall pretty quickly. Now all they can do is base defense this right-hand side Phoenix. And I think, Taco, at this point, if the Tiburones lose this team fight, it's kind of pretty much GG, and so they're going to try to see if they can get anything out of here. Cope Baby making sure that he's... I mean, we have to talk about Cope Baby only hitting just level 12 now as the silence comes out for Sino, trying to see if he can get anything out. GuyJ throwing out his ultimate. Looks like he's going to come crashing in, and Sprain will be able to pick up Sino. There was target number 1. Enemy number 1 down. Ionic's going to pick up Cope Baby. I'm the monster. Will connect, and that will be 2 for Sprain, picking up Pagon in response. Stewart now is going to come trying to see if he can get anything in, but I think Sprain will inevitably fall to Stewart as he gets his own double kill. So now Blugan is going to try to see if he can get away. GuyJ is going to be the target, but the Giddy Up will be able to get him out. Ionic taking the Phoenix. Looks like Stewart trying to see if he can get his triple. He will not. Actually, he will get the triple kill, and Relentless One on the back end is able to pick up GuyJ. A deicide for the Sturdy Artisans. I think they can end with this push with the Fire Maze, Taco.
Even with Cope Baby respawning in 5 seconds, with how far behind he is in this match, and with no execute available just yet, this Titan is all but a goner here for the Tiburones. A nice pick though onto Ionic, so Cope Baby does have a little bit of life kicking in the end here. Relentless One though, pulling the Titan away. Might not make it as easy here for Stewart to actually try and end this game, but Stewart staying adamant to stay on top of this Titan. No opportunity might have been lost here for the Sturdy Artisans. They toyed around with their food and were eaten as dessert instead. Tiburones, signs of life still in play here. A lack of target focus from Stewart and Relentless One means that we're going to get to see some bonus minutes out of this game between these two.
I'm surprised, Taco, just as you are, as you were calling it. It just seemed like that game was going to be it. That was going to be the end of the game. Everything was all said and done. It should have been it. And as you said, the Sturdy Artisans just caught playing with their food. So maybe Sino now, well, he was public enemy number 1 as he dropped. I think that was a lot of their damage just gone out of that match completely. But Stewart was able to pick up a lot of kills. He's able to get the triple kill himself. And then, of course, just the fact that the Titan does a little bit of damage because one tower was still remaining, so it had a little bit of protections left in it, but he'd coming in with a big cavalry charge to stun out the damage dealers. And that's what kind of kept them in the game, Taco. And now as we're hovering at 18 minutes in, the Fire Giant is off their waist. They have an Oni wave, Oni Fury that just spawned over on that left-hand side. That's got to be the next target for the Sturdy Artisans. I think that they get this. They maybe try to see if they can push left or push the mid lane just to get that weakened Phoenix off the map as it just has respawned. But as you mentioned in game 1, the left-hand side Phoenix is the best one when you're trying to get a Fire Giant.
I think that's the primary difference, though, between SCC and SPL, Fuzzy. For a lot of folks back at home might be asking, hold that thought, the Relentless One going to find himself in a spot of trouble. Tiburones looking for another pick opportunity here, trying to find some momentum after that successful team defense they just had. Cope Baby gonna get one. Cope Baby looking for another. It's Heat still holding on for dear life, though, with this Guan Yu Purification Beads. Won't save the day just yet, and Bloodgang could be next to fall.
Looks like Blue is going to be the next target as he will fall to Pagon. And now GuyJ has been walled off. All he can do is hide in the bush, but the bush will not save you. Pagon gets the double kill, but a big Scylla Crush will connect onto the tank and to the Relentless One, so he will make sure that he tries to get away. Cope Baby is around the corner to see if he can try to get something, but with only the 2 carries left of the jungler and the mid laner, I don't think much can happen out of this. As now, the Titan is the next target. Spreen is all alone except for Cope Baby. Blink's going to come in. It's going to hit onto Ionic. It's too little too late, I think. The freeze comes out. The crush will as well. And that will do it. The Sturdy Artisans will pick this up 2-0, 28-8.
Oh, a nice recovery there from Sturdy Artisans. It's not that they ever fumbled the lead by any means, Fuzzy. It's just that a big difference between SCC and Smite Pro League matches. I don't think we see pros forfeiting game ends for kills, and that could have potentially led to a comeback there from the Tiburones, but the lead was just too out in front for the Sturdy Artisans. So despite messing around a little bit more than what they arguably should have, they still managed to close this one and take the set win for home.
Well, the first set of the NASCC, the lowers bracket has been closed. The Sturdy Artisans pick it up 2-0, and we'll have the desk break it down right out of this break.
That was a fun way. We're having fun over here behind the scenes, and of course, you were having fun if you were watching that one. At least if you were a Sturdy Artisans fan, you were having a lot of fun that came through. If you're an ESET fan, I'm sure you really enjoyed what you saw as well. Mifflin, you asked for the early game to be shut down. That didn't happen.
Well, it did happen.
At all.
The other way.
The other way. The wrong direction. You're right.
Tough one, right? Tough loss there for our boys on the Tiburones. You got to imagine how tilted the Sharks are.
Very.
They shouldn't have had to play against the Sturdy Artisans. The only reason the Artisans are even on this side of the bracket is because they forfeit their first set of the week, and now the Sharks have to deal with the first seed, and Well, the first seed's looking pretty strong. What was that, 28 kills in 20-some-odd minutes? The only reason it didn't end at record pace at the 17.5-minute mark is because legitimately the Artisans were trolling inside the enemy's base. I mean, the casters asked us to break it down on the desk. There's not much to break down. When you see a video of someone getting punched in the face, I'm not going to calculate the trajectory of it. He just got hit in the face.
What was the velocity of his fist? I mean, that's the only thing you could do. How fast were they moving? Too fast in this one. What went wrong? All of it. There you go. Nice, pretty bow on top. Unfortunately for the Tiburones, that is the end of their run. Wish it could have been on a maybe more trailblazy sort of escapade, let's say. But that, unfortunately, is going to be the stamp that the Sturdy Artisans put on that, and I'm kind of afraid for anyone that has to go up against them. Look, they're only down here by merit of internet issues, not necessarily from losing a set. Yeah, you're going to be a little worried. Tiburones wishing that it could have been the Winter Dogs that they were up against today, but unfortunately for them, they seem to have met an immovable object, at least there in game number 2. Artisans, look, the damage numbers, the kill count, I think when we were, we will talk about, what kind of highlights, what's the story we want to build for this one. I think I did straight up use the terminology of let's just make this propaganda for the Sturdy Artisans, because how else do you sell it? What happened to that bear? Way nicer than what just happened to the Tiburones. That's merciful in comparison. And it lost 2 legs. Come on, that's not even fair. But the Sturdy Artisans move forward. They remain down there in the lower bracket, Mifflin, and they will be facing the loser of the Winter Dogs versus the Herculean Hoofs.
They sure will be, man. Best of luck to
whoever gets down there.
To anyone who steps up to these guys. I mean, enjoy that one. Whoever's going to move on throughout this one. Look, we've got plenty of good sets here today. I think that I am within my right to say that was a barn burner. I mean, we learned what the definition of what that one was yesterday, and I think it perfectly applies to the set here today. Sturdy Artisans making it look incredibly easy.
Oh, yeah, wait, it was the guy who, burns his barn when there's rats, right?
Yep. Yeah, you nailed it.
And I remember because what happened, Tyler sent it. I had the message
word.
Thanks to the Alienware laptop in front of me. If I didn't have this, I wouldn't have known. I would never be able to tell you. Yeah, exactly. We don't have the plugs, but you know the thing. Go watch last week. You'll get it all, every game. Either way, this is where things get a little spicier, right? Because Herculean Hoofs, the team that we're going to end up watching here next, going up against the Winter Dogs, kind of surprised everybody yesterday. They were not looking good for a lot of this year, but they did pick up the pace in the last, let's say, half or so of the SCC Phase 1. And the same thing can be said. Winter Dogs, probably not the team you expected to see up here. And thanks to some circumstances, they're going to be hanging out up there. But they played in through the wild cards. Now the question is whether or not they can prove they can stay up here. Otherwise, the matchup that they luckily got to dodge yesterday might be meeting them tomorrow. We'll have to see all of that, though, after the end of this break. Grab your snacks, grab your drinks. We'll be right back with more North America.